I never thought buying groceries would change my life forever. When this woman slapped me in front of everyone at the store, she had no idea who I really was. I'm Nancy, and this is the day I discovered my future mother-in-law's true face. Hey everyone, I'm Nancy, and I need to share the most shocking experience of my life with you. If you want to know how one grocery store visit revealed everything about my fiancé's family, hit that like button and subscribe. This story will blow your mind. Hi, I'm Nancy, and I need to tell you about the most unbelievable day of my life. You know those moments when everything you thought you knew about someone gets turned completely upside down? Well, that happened to me last Tuesday at the most ordinary place you can imagine, the grocery store. Let me start from the beginning. I'm engaged to this amazing man named Jake. We've been together for 2 years now, and he's honestly the kindest, most genuine person I've ever met. The only thing is, I'd never met his mother, Helen. Every time we planned to meet, something would come up. She'd cancel last minute, or she'd be traveling for work, or there was always some excuse. Jake would get frustrated and apologize, saying she was just really busy with her career. Now, here's something important about me. My family is wealthy. I mean, really wealthy. My father built a business empire from nothing, and today we own multiple companies across different industries. But here's the thing, I hate flaunting it. I drive a regular car, I shop at normal stores, and I dress simply because that's who I am. I learned early in life that money doesn't define your character, and I wanted people to like me for me, not for my bank account. Jake knows about my family's wealth, of course, but he fell in love with me when he thought I was just a regular girl working at a coffee shop. That's actually how we met. I was working there part-time during college, not because I needed the money, but because I wanted to understand what real work felt like. When Jake found out about my family later, he said it didn't change anything about how he felt. That's when I knew he was the one. So anyway, last week Jake finally said his mom wanted to meet me. He invited me to a family dinner at her house this coming Sunday. I was nervous, obviously. I mean, this was going to be my future mother-in-law, and first impressions matter, right? I wanted her to like me for who I am, not judge me based on assumptions. I decided to practice cooking something special for the dinner. Jake mentioned his mom loves home-cooked meals, so I thought I'd prepare her favorite dish as a surprise. That's what brought me to the grocery store that Tuesday morning. I needed fresh ingredients, and there's this nice little market near my apartment that I've been shopping at for years. I was wearing my usual outfit, just jeans, a simple white t-shirt, and comfortable sneakers. My hair was in a messy bun, and I had no makeup on because, honestly, I was just running a quick errand. I grabbed a cart and started making my way through the produce section, checking my phone for the recipe ingredients. The store was pretty busy for a Tuesday morning. There were families with kids, elderly people taking their time, and the usual mix of people you'd see anywhere. I was focused on finding the best tomatoes when I heard this commotion near the checkout area. There was this woman's voice, getting louder and more agitated by the second. She was clearly upset about something, and from what I could hear, it had to do with coupons or pricing. You know how sometimes you try to ignore these situations, but they're happening right in your path? That's exactly what this was. As I got closer, I could see what was happening. There was this elegantly dressed woman, probably in her 50s, wearing a cream-colored blazer, perfectly styled hair, expensive jewelry, and she was absolutely tearing into this young cashier. The poor kid couldn't have been more than 18, and he looked like he was about to cry. "This is absolutely unacceptable," the woman was saying, waving some coupons in the air. "These coupons are clearly valid, and I demand you honor them immediately." The cashier, whose name tag read Danny, was trying his best to explain. "Ma'am, I'm really sorry, but these coupons expired 3 months ago. Our system won't accept them, and I don't have the authority to override it." "Don't you dare tell me what I can and cannot do," she snapped back. "I shop at premium stores, not places like this, and I expect better service. Get your manager right now." I felt bad for Danny. He was clearly new, probably working his first job, and this woman was making his day miserable over maybe $5 worth of expired coupons. The manager was helping another customer, and there was a line forming behind this woman. Everyone was getting uncomfortable. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. I quietly walked up to the register and said to Danny, "Hey, it's okay. I'll cover the difference for whatever the coupons were worth." Danny looked at me with such relief in his eyes. "Really? Thank you so much. It was just $4.50. I handed him a $5 bill and smiled. "No problem at all." But the woman turned around to look at me, and the expression on her face was something I'll never forget. It was pure disgust, like I was some kind of insect that had crawled into her line of sight. She looked me up and down, taking in my casual clothes, my messy hair, my complete lack of expensive accessories, and her lip actually curled. "Excuse me," she said in this incredibly condescending tone, "but this is none of your business. I don't need charity from someone like you." "Someone like me?" I was taken aback. I was just trying to help, and she was talking to me like I was beneath her. But I kept my voice calm and polite. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I just thought it might help move the line along." "Help?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Let me tell you something, little girl. People like you need to learn your place. This is exactly what's wrong with society today. Poor people thinking they can just insert themselves into situations that don't concern them." The entire checkout area had gone quiet. Other customers were staring, and I could see some people starting to take out their phones. Danny looked mortified, and I felt my cheeks burning with embarrassment. But I wasn't embarrassed for myself. I was embarrassed for her, for the way she was treating another human being. "Ma'am," I said quietly, "I was just trying to be kind. I didn't mean any disrespect." But my calm response seemed to make her even angrier. "Don't you ma'am me. Look at yourself. Thrift store clothes, no proper grooming, probably never worked a real day in your life. You have no business interfering in my affairs." She was getting louder and more people were gathering around us. I could hear whispers and see phone cameras pointing in our direction. This was escalating way beyond what it should have been, and I just wanted to get out of there. I started to turn away, hoping to just leave and let her finish her transaction, but she grabbed my arm. Actually grabbed my arm. "Don't you dare walk away from me when I'm talking to you. Someone needs to teach you some manners." That's when I turned back to face her, and I said something I thought was perfectly reasonable. "I'm sorry you're having a difficult day, but there's no need to be rude to people who are just trying to help. I'm going to go finish my shopping now." And that's when it happened. She pulled her hand back and slapped me across the face, hard. The sound echoed through the entire front of the store, and for a moment, everything went completely silent. My cheek was stinging, and I could feel the heat spreading across my face. I stood there, shocked, my hand instinctively moving to where she'd hit me. I couldn't believe what had just happened. This stranger had actually slapped me in public, in front of all these people because I tried to help pay for her expired coupons. The silence lasted maybe 3 seconds before everything exploded into chaos. People were gasping, talking all at once, and I could hear phone cameras clicking and recording. Danny was standing there with his mouth open, and other store employees were rushing over to see what had happened. "Oh my God, did you see that?" someone said. "She just slapped that girl for no reason." Another voice added. "I got it all on video," someone else announced. But through all the noise and commotion, I heard one voice that made my blood run cold. A familiar voice shouting from across the store. "Mom, what are you doing?" I turned around, and there was Jake running toward us from the entrance of the store. Jake, my fiancé, and he had just called this woman Mom. The world seemed to stop spinning for a moment. This woman, this cruel, horrible woman who had just humiliated and slapped me in front of a crowd of strangers, was Helen, Jake's mother, my future mother-in-law. Jake reached us, breathing hard like he'd been running. He looked between me and his mother with complete confusion and growing horror. "Nancy? Mom? What's going on here?" Helen's face had gone completely white. She was staring at Jake, then at me, then back at Jake. "Jake? How do you know this girl?" "This girl?" Jake's voice was getting louder. "Mom, this is Nancy, my fiancée. The woman I've been telling you about for months. The woman you're supposed to meet at dinner on Sunday." I watched Helen's face go through about 15 different emotions in the span of 5 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, shock, and then what looked like pure panic. She kept looking at me like she was trying to see something she'd missed before. Your fiancé? She stammered. But she looks so... So what, Mom? Jake demanded. He had moved to stand next to me, and I could feel how angry he was. She looks so what? Helen opened and closed her mouth several times, but no words came out. The crowd around us was still watching, still recording, and I could hear people whispering about what they'd just witnessed. Jake, I said quietly, my voice still a little shaky, maybe we should talk about this somewhere else. But Jake was staring at his mother with an expression I'd never seen before. No, Nancy, I want to know what happened here. Why is your face red? Why does everyone look like they just witnessed something terrible? Danny, bless his heart, spoke up. Sir, your mom got upset about some expired coupons, and this lady offered to pay the difference to help out. Then your mom got really angry and, well, she hit her. Jake's face went through its own series of expressions. She hit you? My mother hit you? The store manager had finally made it over to us, looking completely overwhelmed by the situation. Is everyone okay here? Do we need to call security? Helen finally found her voice again. Jake, you have to understand, I didn't know who she was. She looked so... ordinary. How was I supposed to know she was your fiancé? That might have been the worst thing she could have said. Jake turned to look at her with such disappointment that I actually felt sorry for Helen for a moment. So, that makes it okay? It's okay to slap someone as long as they're not related to you? That's not what I meant, Helen said quickly. She interfered in my business, and I was having a stressful morning and... You slapped her, Jake said, his voice getting quieter, which somehow made it scarier. You slapped the woman I love because she tried to do something nice for a cashier. People were still recording, and I realized this whole scene was probably going to end up on social media. I gently touched Jake's arm. Can we please go somewhere and talk about this privately? But Helen wasn't done. She was starting to panic, realizing how badly she'd messed up. Nancy, I am so sorry. I had no idea who you were. If I had known you were Jake's fiancé, I never would have... Never would have what? I asked, finally finding my voice again. Never would have been cruel to a stranger? Never would have insulted someone based on how they look? Never would have hit someone for trying to help? Helen's mouth opened and closed again. She was realizing, I think, that there was no good way to finish that sentence. Jake looked at me, then at his mother, then back at me. Nancy, I am so sorry. I can't believe this happened. I can't believe my own mother. It's okay, I said, even though it really wasn't. Let's just go. But the store manager stepped forward. Actually, ma'am, we have the whole incident on our security cameras. If you'd like to press charges for assault, we can call the police right now. Helen's face went even whiter, if that was possible. Charges? Oh no. Please, that's not necessary. It was all a misunderstanding. I looked at Jake, who was still staring at his mother like he didn't recognize her. I looked at Danny, who was trying to pretend he was busy with something else. I looked at all the people around us with their phones out, recording what was probably the most embarrassing moment of Helen's life. And then my phone rang. I almost didn't answer it, but when I saw the caller ID, I knew I had to. Hi, Dad. Hi, sweetheart. I just wanted to confirm our lunch meeting tomorrow. The board wants to discuss the Morrison Industries acquisition, and I need your input before we make our final decision. I could see Helen's face changing as she listened to my side of the conversation. Jake was looking confused. He knew my dad was successful, but we'd never really talked about the specifics of the family business. Of course, Dad. I'll see you at the office at noon. I paused, looking directly at Helen. Should I have Mom prepare the conference room, or are we meeting in your executive suite? Helen's eyes were getting wider with each word I spoke. The executive suite is fine. My father's voice came through clearly. Oh, and Nancy? Don't forget to bring the Richardson Group contract. Helen Richardson has been excellent to work with, and I want to make sure we keep her happy with the new terms. I felt like someone had just struck me with lightning. Helen Richardson. Helen's last name was Richardson. She worked for my father's company. Dad, I said slowly, keeping my eyes on Helen's face. You said Helen Richardson, right? What does she look like? Oh, you know Helen. Blonde hair, always impeccably dressed, probably in her 50s. She's one of our best regional managers. Why do you ask? Helen had gone from white to green. She was staring at me with absolute horror, and I could practically see her trying to do the math in her head. No reason, Dad. I'll see you tomorrow. I hung up the phone and looked at Helen. Richardson Group. That's your company, isn't it? She nodded weakly. And you work for Morrison Industries? Another weak nod. Jake was looking back and forth between us. Nancy, what's going on? What's Morrison Industries? I took a deep breath. Morrison Industries is my family's company, Jake. My father owns it, and your mother... I looked at Helen, who looked like she might faint. Your mother works for my father. The silence that followed was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop in that grocery store. Jake was staring at me, then at his mother, then back at me. Helen looked like she was having some kind of existential crisis. Your father, Helen whispered, is William Morrison? I nodded. The William Morrison who owns Morrison Industries, Richardson Group, and about 15 other companies? I nodded again. Helen sat down heavily on a nearby bench, like her legs couldn't support her anymore. Oh my God, what have I done? Jake was still processing. Nancy, you never told me your family owned Morrison Industries. That's huge. I know, I said quietly. I don't like talking about it. I wanted people to like me for me, not for my family's money. Helen was staring at me with a look of complete devastation. You're going to tell him, aren't you? You're going to tell your father what happened here. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman had humiliated me, insulted me, and slapped me in front of a crowd of strangers. She had shown me exactly who she really was when she thought I was just some poor girl with no power or influence. I don't know, I said honestly. What do you think I should do? Helen started crying, actually crying right there in the grocery store. Please, she said. Please don't tell him. I need this job. I'm so sorry, Nancy. I'm so sorry. I was having a terrible day and I took it out on you, and I know that's no excuse, but please. Jake was looking at his mother with such disappointment. Mom, you need to stop. Just stop talking. But I was thinking about something else. Tomorrow was Wednesday. That meant today was Tuesday, and Helen had a standing meeting with my father every Wednesday at 2 p.m. to discuss regional performance metrics. I knew because I'd seen it on his calendar dozens of times. Helen, I said quietly, don't you have a meeting with my father tomorrow afternoon? Her crying got worse. Yes, I do. We're supposed to discuss my promotion to Vice President of Regional Operations. Jake and I both stared at her. Promotion? Jake asked. I've been working toward this for 3 years, Helen sobbed. It's the biggest opportunity of my career. I'm supposed to sign the contract tomorrow. I looked around at all the people still watching us, still recording. This whole incident was probably already online somewhere. By tomorrow, it might be everywhere. Nancy, Jake said quietly, can we talk privately for a minute? I nodded, and we walked a few steps away from his mother and the crowd. I don't know what to say, Jake began. I'm so ashamed of her behavior. I can't believe she treated you like that. I can't believe she hit you. Jake, it's not your fault. But it is, in a way. I should have made sure you two met properly before now. I should have prepared her better. I should have told her more about you. I touched his arm. Would it have mattered? Would she have treated that cashier better if she'd known I was watching? Would she have been kinder to a stranger if she'd known that stranger had money? Jake was quiet for a moment, and I could see him working through the implications of what I was saying. The person she showed me today, I continued, that's who she really is when she thinks no one important is watching. That's who she is when she thinks there are no consequences. We both looked back at Helen, who was still sitting on the bench, crying and probably trying to figure out how to save her career. What are you going to do? Jake asked. I honestly don't know, I admitted. Part of me thinks she deserves whatever consequences come from this, but part of me feels sorry for her. She slapped you, Nancy, in public, for trying to help someone. I know. Jake was quiet for another moment. What does this mean for us? For our relationship? That was the question I'd been dreading, because the truth was, I didn't know. How do you build a future with someone whose mother had just shown you such cruelty? How do you sit at family dinners with someone who had revealed such an ugly side of themselves? But looking at Jake, seeing how genuinely horrified and disappointed he was by his mother's behavior, I realized something important. Jake wasn't his mother. Jake was the man who'd fallen in love with me when he thought I was just a coffee shop worker. Jake was the man who'd never once treated anyone with anything less than kindness and respect. I don't know what it means, I said honestly, but I know it doesn't change how I feel about you. Jake's relief was visible. Thank you, he said quietly. I love you, Nancy, and I promise you, I will make this right somehow. We walked back over to where Helen was waiting. She looked up at us with red, swollen eyes. Helen, I said, and my voice was steadier than I felt. I want you to know that what happened here today showed me exactly who you are. Not who you pretend to be, not who you think you should be, but who you really are when you think no one's watching. She nodded miserably. I haven't decided what I'm going to do about this yet, but I want you to think about something between now and tomorrow afternoon. I want you to think about that young cashier and how you made him feel. I want you to think about every person you've ever looked down on because of how they dressed or where they worked or how much money you thought they had. Helen was crying again, but she was listening. And I want you to think about this, I continued. Tomorrow, when you sit in that meeting with my father, remember that the poor girl you slapped today is going to be sitting right next to him. With that, Jake and I turned and walked away, leaving Helen sitting on that bench with the weight of what she'd done and what might happen next. As we left the store, Jake put his arm around me. Are you okay? I thought about it for a moment. My cheek still stung where she'd slapped me. I was still processing the shock of discovering that this horrible woman was going to be my mother-in-law, and I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do about tomorrow's meeting. But you know what? I was okay, because sometimes the worst moments show you the most truth about people, and today had shown me exactly who Helen Richardson really was. The question now was, what was I going to do with that truth? Can you believe this happened to me? What do you think I should do about Helen? Should I tell my father what happened or handle it myself? Let me know in the comments what you would do in my situation. If you want to see what happens next in this crazy story, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. Part 2 is coming soon, and trust me, you won't want to miss Helen's reaction when she finds out the whole truth.